The Pokemon Company in Japan have revealed the latest sets that are coming out in Japan a little later this year, and they are Snow Hazard and Clay Burst. And I have to say, based on the cards they've revealed so far, I am super excited for these. Up until now, I haven't been particularly excited about the first round of Scarlet and Violet cards or the Triplet B cards, but I really like the cards that they've revealed here, which makes me really excited for the game going forward. I'm Jet from inthirdperson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the big cards that they've revealed so far from Snow Hazard and Clay Burst. They also have pre-evolutions here. I'm not going to go through those, and shout outs to Poke Guardian for the information here. And let's talk about some of the big cards here, such as Chien-Pao EX, which has the ability Trembling Chill. Actually, let's start before. So basic EX, 220 HP, 2 retreat. It's a water type Pokemon. This is like one of the legendaries in Scarlet and Violet. Spoilers, if you haven't played Scarlet and Violet, we're going into Pokemon spoiler territory here. But we do have the ability Trembling Chill. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may search your deck for up to 2 basic water energy, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Great way of drawing water energy. And then for 2 water, Hailblade does 60 damage and discard any amount of water energy from your Pokemon. This attack does 60 damage for each card you discard this way. Sorry, it's 60 times. So if you discard 2, it's 120, but technically it is a uncapped move. You can technically one-shot everything in the game, which makes you wonder, like, how are you getting all of that energy on to the Chien-Pao? And that's actually done. We're jumping here with Baxcalibur. This is a stage 2 Pokemon, so that's a little tough to get with. 160 HP, 2 retreat, but it has the ability Sub-Zero. As often as you like during your turn, before your attack, you may attach a water energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. If this sounds like Frostmoth, yes it is, but this is actually better than Frostmoth because this has like 2 big benefits. One, you can attach it to the active as well as the bench. There's no qualifier of the Pokemon being attached to has to be on the bench. And on top of that, you don't have to attach it to a water Pokemon. You can attach this to any Pokemon and accelerate with water energy. Now, the big problem is Baxcalibur is a stage 2, but if you can get this on the board, this becomes a crazy good way of accelerating energy, especially for water decks, but even not necessarily water decks. You might just want to take advantage of this anyhow. And this combos so well with Chien-Pao, where you can just grab a bunch of energy, potentially pivoting the Chien-Paos, like multiple Chien-Paos to grab a bunch of energy and then attaching them all. Or you could grab, play something like Lady to grab 4 from your deck and then attach it with the Baxcalibur. Lots of different ways of getting energy onto this Chien-Pao. And this is actually like a pretty decent attacker. And more importantly, this Baxcalibur does solve a lot of questions for water energy acceleration. Stage 2 is going to be a problem, but we'll see how it goes. If you can get this set up, this is going to be pretty deadly. Next on the list, we've got Ting-lu EX. I'm really excited for this one. This is going to be incredibly annoying to deal with because of its ability Curse-Bound Land. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, opponent's Pokemon, except Pokemon EX, that have any damage counters on them have no abilities. If you start to use stuff like Radiant or like Hawlucha, the new Scarlet and Violet Hawlucha that drops a damage counter on 2 bench Pokemon, all of a sudden you put that down, bang, 2 Genesects just don't work anymore because they have damage counters on them. And there are a lot of different ways of getting damage on there. Gapejaw Bog, for example, forces Pokemon being added to the bench to take damage, and all of a sudden they just don't have abilities, and that can really grind your opponent to a halt. And its attack is not necessarily great. For 3 fighting energy, Land Scoop does 150 damage, and you put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. The 2 damage counters is nice, not necessarily for the added damage, but to potentially shut off abilities. And this Ting-lu sounds like it's going to be incredibly annoying to deal with, and I am excited / horrified to see how this works out in the meta. It does prevent EX, like it doesn't work on EX Pokemon, so there is that consideration, and this does get worse over time as Vs and V stars and V maxes go away, and maybe the I mean, basic Pokemon are always going to be around, but this is pretty nuts if you ask me. Squawkability EX. I mean, I was gonna say like continuing the trend of like bird Pokemon having this, but Crobat was the one before. This is kind of your new Crobat, but really it's the new Dedenne GX. It has the ability Squawkability, where you may use this ability only once during your first turn, discard your hand and draw 6 cards. You can't use more than one Squawkability ability during your turn. Like, I have had concerns about drawing cards in the post-rotation world where there is no Crobat. I understand that cards like Dedenne and Crobat have made the game go really fast, and that being said, with them gone completely, the game does kind of slow down, but I do like the fact that we do have the ability to, discard our hand, draw 6, especially on turn 1 where you probably want this the most, where you just have a really bad starting hand and you need to just refresh your hand so you can just play the game. And Squawkability lets you do that. It's not OP in the sense that it only works on the first turn. And I do like that this does not have to be played on the board in order to trigger the ability. This can already be on the board, and then you just use the ability. So in that way, it is better as well. It doesn't work after that, which I think from a game balance perspective is the better way to go. And this is going to be I think this is going to be a staple card in most decks. I think you play a one of these just so you have that ability in case you get stuck. Chi-Yu EX is a Fire EX basic Pokemon, only 190 HP, which is not great, 1 retreat, and it has 2 attacks, one of them for 1 fire, Begrudging Burn, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. It's fine, I guess. You're not really going to build a whole mill strategy with this attack, but its second attack, 2 fire energy, Flame Surge, does 100 damage, and choose 3 of your bench Pokemon. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a basic fire energy and attach it to that Pokemon. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Getting 3 fire energy on 3 different Pokemon, it's not bad. You could combo this with I think it's Armor Rouge, where you can move the fire energy around and potentially just move 3 fire energy to a different attacker of your choice, like Charizard V-Star or something like that, to get fire energy acceleration going. This could be kind of cool. It's not my favorite of the EXs they've shown so far, but it definitely has potential. My big concern would be the 190 HP is pretty bad. That's getting one-shotted in this current meta, but for 2, like, you can get this also ramped up in 1 turn with Magma Basin, and then just flood the board with energy, and then move it around with the Armor Rouge and go from there. Rabska is a stage 1 Pokemon, 70 HP. That part's horrible, but it does have a really intriguing attack here. For 1 colorless energy, Revival Blessing. Choose a Pokemon from your discard pile and put it onto your bench. This is nuts because it's not a basic Pokemon, it is a Pokemon. You want to put down a V Max, you can do that. You want to put down a V Star, you can. If you want to put down a Stage 2 EX, you can do that also without having to go through the rigmarole of evolving. And this is pretty sick. Now you're gonna get knocked out, right? Rabska for 70 HP, like, that's guaranteed. You're coughing up a prize in order to get that evolved Pokemon onto the board, or whatever Pokemon it might be, but it might be worth it to sacrifice a prize in order to get that big Pokemon onto your bench without having to go through the extra process of evolving and all that. So very intriguing card right here. The Dunsparce, the evolution of Dunsparce, has an attack for 4 colorless energy, Flash Disappearance, does 100 damage, and the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. Shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your deck. 4 energy, 4 colorless energy, even if you're playing with 2 double turbo energies, that's really hard to get on the board. I think the only real practical use for this is in Lugia, where you can evolve to Dunsparce, throw a bunch of energy on here with Archeops, get paralysis, and then just throw everything back into the deck, including the energy, which you can then use to power up a more potent attacker. I guess in a scenario where you can't get a one-shot on something, this is fine, but it feels very situational at best. Gargonagle, I think that's how you pronounce it. Gargonagle. There's a lot of talk in the VGC about this Pokemon. I don't know if that's still the case, but I remember a lot of people talking about its defensive stat being absolutely nuts, and it kind of reflects in the card design as well. This is a stage 2 Pokemon, 180 HP, 3 retreat, and it's got the ability Blessing of Salt. At any time between turns, heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. I think that's supposed to be on checkup. Anytime. That's a little weird between turns, but anyway, heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon, potentially a ton of healing here, and its attack, Knocking Hammer, 130 damage, and discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Probably not using this as an attacker so much, but the ability is very intriguing. Raichu here, 140 HP, one retreat, and this is basically Pikachu V. It is the exact same attacks with the Electrocharge. For 1 colorless, you can search your deck for up to 2 basic lightning energy cards and attach them to this Pokemon. Shuffle your deck afterwards. You probably don't want to do this because Raichu, if you're using your turn to do this with Raichu, you're probably just going to get knocked out. So this is probably a waste most of the time. However, Lightning, colorless, Thunderbolt, 200 damage, discard all energy from this Pokemon. If you're playing a Flaffy Engine build or you have that electricity generator card handy, you could get this set up real quick and do 200 damage. You're going to lose the Raichu on the next turn, but if you're potentially up trading on an EX or a V-Star, V-Max, then single prize doing 200 damage is not bad. Mousehold, one of my favorite Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet. Mousehold, all of these, yeah, just such a cute family here. It's got the move Nibbling Around. For 3 colorless energy, put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon for each Mousehold you have in play. So if you've got 4 Mousehold in play, and yes, that's going to take a bit to set up, you are dropping 4 damage counters on all of your opponent's Pokemon, and that is some pretty insane snipe damage. Getting that spread all the way around, it is a lot of work. There's probably some other stuff you're going to have to do to really capitalize on putting that damage down, but very cool idea, and it could combo into some other stuff to be a menace. Grusha, one of my favorite gym leaders in Scarlet and Violet. They have the when you play Grusha, you can draw until you have 5 cards in hand. If none of your Pokemon in play have energy attached, draw until you have 7 cards in hand instead. This is not going to work for every deck. However, being able to draw up to 7 is really nice, especially at the beginning of the game. You could combo this with like a whole bunch of Ultra Balls on turn 1, get your board set up, play the Grusha, draw even more cards. That can be quite the combo, or just like certain decks just don't have a lot of energy on the board in the middle of the game, and Grusha is pretty cool for that. The big card, I've been burying the lead. This card is absolutely nuts. This is Yono, and their card is basically, it's half Marnie, half N. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it at the bottom of their deck. Then each player draws a card for each of their prize cards remaining. And this is actually kind of better than Marnie and better than N in the way that it's been designed. I love the fact that you're putting all the cards to the bottom of your deck. And one that's like great disruption. Your opponent doesn't get access to those cards that they had in their hand. But also, if you're trying to draw new cards, you're not going to risk redrawing into the cards you already had because all your cards are going to the bottom of your deck. And this makes for a great comeback card in particular because, for example, if your opponent has 4 prizes remaining and you have 6, you get to draw 6 cards, they draw 4. Now, if you're really in a jam and you're ahead, you can play this card, but you are giving your opponent more cards to work with. And this becomes really potent at the end of the game, where if your opponent has 1 or 2 prize cards remaining, you play Yono, and then all of a sudden they have no cards to work with. This is probably the best comeback card we have seen, pretty much since N rotated out, and I absolutely love this. This is going to be a staple in every deck. going forward in a post-rotation world. I cannot wait to get a couple of these in pretty much all of the decks that I play. Super Rod makes its return, and unlike Ordinary Rod, where Ordinary Rod lets you get up to 2 Pokemon and up to 2 energy, this lets you grab 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy. So if you want to grab just 3 Pokemon, if you want to grab just 3 energy, or you want to do 2 in 1 of either combo, you can use Super Rod for that. I was very concerned because in the Scarlet and Violet meta, up until the release of these cards, I should have noted this is going to be part of our Paldea Evolved set going forward. There was no sort of Pokemon recovery. There's Miriam, but that's a supporter. It's a little too slow. But Super Rod getting recovery, energy recovery, and Pokemon recovery as an item card is great. I love the return of Super Rod for that. Last but not least, we've got Brave Charm, and this one is your basic Pokemon this card is attached to gets plus 50 HP. This is essentially Cape of Toughness, except it doesn't have the qualifier that it doesn't work on GXs. So if you're playing Expanded and you want plus 50 HP on your basic GXs, you can play this too. But in standard format, this is going to be an incredibly helpful card that a ton of people are playing as well. There is a look at the upcoming Clayburst Snow Hazard cards from Japan that will be part of our Paldea Evolved set coming out later this year. I'm pretty sure it's Paldea Evolved later this year. Really excited for these cards, especially the Yono card, which I really think is going to help the game out so much and helping to balance out the game and give us a legitimate way of coming back from a deficit, which has been a problem since I started playing the game back in the Battle Styles Chilling Reign era, and even stretching back before that. So wonderful stuff. I really like the EX Pokemon as well, where they are really well designed and have some really cool abilities and attacks, and I think these are the best cards we've seen yet out of the Scarlet and Violet era. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments of this video. So Twitch fam, stick around, but we do have to say goodbye to our YouTube friends. So if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at In3rdPerson. You can find me on Twitch at In3rdPerson, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can check out the website, in3rdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until next time, I will see you all later. Bye-bye. Let me find my outro screen. Here it is. Bye-bye.